We will see significant displacement in any of the scenarios, whether it's positive or less positive, so we have to be prepared for that. Displacement, either in terms of the north-south equation or the internal equation, so something that we should not step back from, even if we go into more of a recovery mode. And my last message is a simple one. Let's not forget the north. A lot of what is being said sort of paints a fairly simple picture in terms of the south as being the area that is going to need our attention, that we need to build solutions for. And the north, we often forget, needs the same thing, needs to also be supported in terms of the major challenges it has, because good neighborhood will be a basis for stable relationship and limits to the displacement feature. Thank you very much.
Good morning, and thank you very much to Wendy and to Roberta for your kind words. I was introduced as having been in Sudan since 2004. In fact, I'm a relative newcomer. I arrived there in 2010. 2004 was another date on my bio, but I did start in Sudan in 1986. So I have been involved in Sudan for many years. I spent 3 years there in the 80s and early 90s. But this time round, I've been there just less than a year. So my perspectives are maybe slightly different because I'm still a newcomer. I am very happy to be at a gathering where we have both the humanitarians and the politicians. Us humanitarians, we spend a lot of time talking to fellow humanitarians, and it's nice to have the politicians present. And I certainly agree very much with what Minister Pronk said this morning, that we need a political solution. But it's very important that we also look at the impact that aid can have on finding political solutions, because aid can sometimes be part of the solution, it can sometimes be part of the problem. And I think we need to be aware of that. I wanted to make 3 main points. The first one is, don't take your eyes off Darfur. In fact, I should have prefaced this by saying that I'm not going to talk about the whole of Sudan, since Peter has already given a very comprehensive overview, and other speakers have spoken this morning about issues throughout Sudan. I thought I would limit my presentation to Darfur. I'm very happy to take questions on other issues later, but I wanted to home in on Darfur. So my first point is, don't take your eyes off Darfur. One of the reasons I say that is because with the needs in Darfur are not going away. There are still huge needs there. On top of that, the economy of northern Sudan is going to suffer when it no longer has the oil revenues that it currently benefits from. And that's going to have implications for places like Darfur. Darfur makes up a quarter of the population of Sudan, and yet last year it received 1/10 of the fiscal transfers to the states. It is a marginalized area with gross underdevelopment, and that is what has been at the heart of a lot of the conflict in Darfur. With this increased pressure on the economy in northern Sudan, places like Darfur are particularly vulnerable. In Darfur at the moment, we currently have one of the biggest aid operations in the world. We're not only assisting the 1.9 million IDPs that we constantly refer to, we are actually feeding 4 million people, which is half the population of Darfur. And the reason we are providing food assistance to 4 million people is because of the chronic underdevelopment and needs in that area. And these needs go back a long way, which is why I was there in the mid-'80s, together with Alex Deval and others, when we were running a massive aid program because of famine and conflict and displacement. In fact, I started work in a Chadian camp of Chadian refugees in Darfur at the time. So we have a massive aid operation in Darfur, feeding 4 million people. 1,000 tons of food a day are going into Darfur every day of the year. That's 350,000 tons a year. It is a massive operation. The question is, are we reaching the right people in the right kinds of ways, or do we need to adapt what we do and how we work in Darfur? This brings me to my second point, which is to say, in Darfur, we need to think long-term as well as thinking short-term. And on the aid side, I don't think we've been very good at doing that in the last few years. We are very good in the humanitarian world at providing assistance to people in camps. It's just something we do well. When everybody is concentrated in one point, and often some of the big camps are close to the big urban centers there, we have better access to those camps than we have to a lot of the other rural areas. It is easy to, relatively easy, to provide assistance to those camps, and more difficult to do a lot of the other work assisting with the chronic underdevelopment and vulnerability of populations throughout Darfur. But there can be a problem. These camps are magnets. And I was not involved with Darfur back in those years, 2004, 2005. But having been there in the 1980s, I watched from a distance and I said to myself, I hope these people know that those camps that are being established now are going to be there in 20 years' time. Because when you used to walk 3 hours to collect water each way, every day, and you had limited access to schools and health facilities and clean water, the attraction of these camps is incredible. And when we talk now about looking into verifying voluntariness of return, we need to think about the options. If the option is to stay and be fed in a camp for the next 20 years, a lot of people are going to choose that option. So I think the issue is that we need to look at the needs of these displaced people in these camps, and we need to continue to address their needs for protection and assistance. But at the same time, we need to look at 3 issues, which is how to find solutions for people who are asking us for solutions, how to help people who want to return to their areas of return to do so, how to reduce long-term aid dependency, how to help people restore their livelihoods and not just keep them alive in camps. And we need to look at the sustainability of the aid operation. For how long are donors going to be willing to continue feeding 4 million people in Darfur, including nearly 2 million displaced people in camps? I want to just tell you quickly about a reality of what's going on in Darfur. There is continued insecurity, fighting, displacement in parts of Darfur. Just very recently, we've seen some 50 to 80,000 people arriving in Zamzam camp as a result of fighting in North Darfur. So the fighting continues and the displacement is very real, and it is continuing. At the same time, in other parts of Darfur, there are people who are returning to their homes